Okay.
What's to do with a radical?
It does not have to do with a radical.
Well, then I
Because we can't square numbers to get a negative number as the answer.
But are we talking about logarithms still?
Is it because the inverse squared? Or like not squared, but like to like the power?
Okay, well, so like, let's go back to what does a logarithm look like?
That's what, it's anything to a power, but
It's like an upside down exponential function.
So if that's the exponential, what's the logarithm look like?
It's equal to zero,
Y
right?
equals X.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like that. Okay, so then, I don't know if this is an explanation, but does that make sense? Like, why we're not able to take the logarithm of something?
Yeah, because you can't have X.
Okay, so then, and this is going to go back to the question at the beginning. So then what do we call the y-axis in this case? Vertical asymptote. And what is the domain of this? X is greater than 0. Okay. So then I'm looking at the next section here, 51 to 61. And it says, find the domain, vertical asymptote, and X-intercept of the logarithmic function and sketch it. 318 now. What's going on here? All right, so I'm going to look at this one first. So this is 52. This is number 52. This is your example. So how can we determine what the domain and or vertical asymptote is? Like what did we just figure out?
Well, it's always going to be 0, correct? Like the
It's not always going to be 0.
It's not always 0. Can't be
No,
negative.
because you can put a number in there that can change.
Well, okay, so then I don't know if I asked that correctly, but what is this not allowed to be?
Negative.
Negative or
0.
okay, so on this one can we just say that the domain would be what?
Greater than 0.
Yeah, it has to be greater than 0, right? And so then, and because this base, it works with any base, right? So then, what about, what's the vertical asymptote then?
0.
And then how can we figure out where the X-intercept is? Because that's the other thing they're asking us.
Set it equal to 0.
Why is that what you should do?
Because it changes the exponential form and solve it.
No, like why am I, what I'm asking is like why is setting it equal to 0 correct?
Because y is equal to 0.
Y is equal to 0, and so then any point on the x-axis is 0, and that's why it makes sense to set it equal to 0. So you're just changing y into 0, and you're saying, what values of x give me 0 here? Okay, so then what are we going to do?
Changes the exponential.
Okay, so what's that look like?
6 to the 0 equals x.
Okay, and so then x equals... Okay, so we kind of knew that one already, right? That's not any different than the one we just did. So then we have this, and this is true for any base, right? So basically it would look like that if it was log base 10, log base 20, log base 2, whatever. Okay, it essentially look like that. Okay, so then let's look at 54 then. Okay, so one thing at a time. All right, so let's go through on how we get there. And you know, if you need notes, like these are going to be the steps here in a second. So what has to be bigger than 0?
What's in the parentheses?
What? Yeah. So all of this needs to be bigger than 0. Why all of this?
Because that's what you're applying the log.
Oh yeah, good. That's a good way to put it, right? Like that's what you're taking the log of. So that better be bigger than 0 when you do it. So then how can we determine what the domain is?
Set that equal to 0.
Close. No. What are we gonna set it to? You don't want to set it to 0.
Greater than 0.
You want it to be greater than 0, right? Because everything that you're applying the logarithm to has to be above 0, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the domain is going to be what here? Yeah, x is greater than what? X is greater than 3. Okay? But to find the vertical asymptote, you would do what? Okay, so like, can we do it like the math? Yeah, it is going to be the same thing. But like, what are you worried about there?
What x can't be.
So then, right, normally it's when it's 0, right? So then the vertical asymptote would be at 3. Right, and so again, if you need the steps in the notes, like to find domain, you would say anything that you're taking the logarithm of needs to be set greater than or equal to 0. And then you could totally say, oh, well, then that's the same as the vertical asymptote, or you could do what we just did there. What about how we go about getting the x-intercept again?
You would like set it equal to 0.
Okay, so you set the whole thing equal to 0. So then log base 4 of x minus 3, equals 0. So then what?
4 to the 0 equals x minus 3.
Okay, and again, like that's the whole move with logarithms, right? If you need to look at this and you say, there's nothing I can do with this, then you better check the other form. So 4 to the 0 equals x minus 3. Yeah, so that's 1, right? And so then x equals 4, but what did we just find? We just found the x-intercept, so this is actually a coordinate at 4, 0. And you can check this, right? And this is like what we were talking about at the beginning. Like you go through this and then plug it in and see if you're okay. So, how long do we have?
46.
46. Okay, so then the only other thing I'm going to talk about is like what's going on with 63 to 65. And then I think the best thing to do would be to do 53, 55, and 57 before you go to make sure you guys got this. And Lexi, does that answer more of your question a little bit?
Yeah.
Like on that, how that worked?
Yeah.
All right, so then, so real quick, it was like switching it up just a little bit. Is that increasing or decreasing? How do you know it's increasing? Say,
Because x increases, y increases.
and so every time x increases, y increases. Is that okay? Like that's a really good way to say it. Why? What?
Ryan said that, Ryan said it.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's like when he speaks, it's just like white noise. I don't hear it.
I said it yesterday too.
But there was that noise.
Huh?
What was that?
It's like weird in here.
It was weird. I thought it was. My sons have sound machines to sleep by. I thought that's what it was. All right, so then, all right, Brian, I'll give you. Here is that the blue one increasing or decreasing?
Decreasing,
Why?
because x increases, y decreases.
Yeah, good. Well done. Yeah, that sounded good.
Good job, Ryan. You got this.
He needed that.
You're smart.
All right. It's verification. All right, so then everyone can look at something and can tell me intervals where it increases and intervals where it decreases? Okay, so then, so I don't know what I said to go to. This stuff shouldn't be that bad. But let's do 51 to 57 before you go. And use your calculator, like look at it and make some kind of